Now, my last question here, I didn't prepare you for this ahead of time, so feel free to say no, but would you be willing to pick up your violin
Oh,
and so people can, first of all, see it? I mean, we didn't really talk about the violins you make, which are just absolutely stunning. I've been to the NAMM show, walked by your booth there, and listened to all of you. I've never actually seen you play there, but all of your colleagues and employees and coworkers who play constantly, your violins are incredible, and I'd love, if you don't mind, play
oh,
a few things
piece of
for our
cake,
viewers here.
man. Piece of cake,
And
man.
real quick,
Because
while you're strapping up there, you talked about in the classical world that people don't like things that are different necessarily. How did your violins go over when you first invented them? Because they were not the typical figure eight kind of body shape. Did that right off the gate? Did that throw people off because it doesn't look like what people conceive of as a violin?
it was pissing them off beyond words. And guess what? As a disruptor,
I bet you loved that.
you're not getting that reaction. You're not doing it right. The
Right.
second I left Juilliard, and I went to Juilliard, the best musicians. I was roommates with Nigel Kennedy. My roommates were the absolute best, and I was around the absolute best musicians. Most of my classical life, Tanglewood, of course, my brothers,
Mhm.
and when I decided to leave Juilliard and my mother finally picked herself off of the floor and realized that Mark's gonna be a what? That rock and roll. I hate that rock and roll. So I completely left it aside. So I started to interact not with the classical world, I was starting to interact with the rock and roll world.
Mhm.
And they looked at me and went, wow, that's cool. And immediately, I was like, "Oh, I like these people
Right.
because they're like, what else can you do that's weird?" And then, of course, all my violins on the back wall define that. In fact, Jason, let me grab something for you. I've got to show
Yeah,
you this.
absolutely.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I showed you any of my instruments last time we spoke.
No, not up close. We discussed them a little bit.
But this particular instrument was the peak of my career, which was about the late 80s, early 90s, virtuoso metal. Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, Poison. I was right in the middle of that, but
Wow.
I played with a bow. But the instrument that I was on the Tonight Show, I was on the cover of Time magazine, was this one. Now, if you can't
Love
get
it.
further away from the traditional violin,
Right.
with my vibrant, so it wrapped around my neck, the hand rested on my chest. I carved this in my dad's wood shop. It's exactly
Wow.
my hand. Put fishnet stockings on, of course.
Of
How
course.
do I support the strings? Oh, I know. I'll put a knife through the forearm like that. And every time I would perform with this instrument, the audience would be shocked,
That's amazing.
disturbed, and I've got dragon. You go to woodviolins.com, my website, you'll see the history of my inventions. But this instrument was life changing. I've got the entire orchestra on one instrument. I got violin, viola, cello,
Wow.
and bass, all in one instrument. So when
Amazing.
I'm working with symphony orchestras and orchestras in general, I can communicate the violas, cellos, and basses with one instrument. And this has become a popular instrument for string teachers, mostly 4, 5, and 6 strings. This is a 7 string,
Mhm.
where they can be wireless and they can walk around the room with their electric Viper and communicate to the string players wherever they are. And with the technology, it really changes. But having
Fantastic.
the frets, but it's a traditional tuning. I did not change that. It's all tuned in fifths. And
Mhm.
of course, this has been the same for 400 or 500 years.
Right.
This is really where the action. It's not here. It's this. So with
Absolutely.
this, I can do a lot of these similar. So I can play traditional violin on this. I can do the Bach cello.
Wow.
So I can do that. Now I can push flick a switch, and you can hear the echo that I have.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
when I discovered with technology, I was like, wow, I can do that with echo. And then, of course, the dive bombing, because being a rock musician, man, when I hear this guitar player, I was like, what? Oh, it's called distortion. So
Yes.
oh, but remember, I didn't use a pick because
Yep.
of the bow. And again, when people say, Mark, why don't you just play guitar? I don't want to play guitar because it's this I have that you don't have,
Right.
that you can do rapid fire and with distortion to beautifully, very expressive. So a piece of plastic, sorry, guitar players, that pick does nothing for me.
Right.
This with horsehair, it's like, why hasn't anybody done this? And you
Right.
know, I've been playing my electric violins for 40 years, and I can still name on one hand the amount of electric string players that are in this that are world class.
Right.
On one hand, name how many electric guitar players do we know?
Right. There's so many. Yep.
Hundreds. Now, why? There's another question for you. Why is that? Well, the violin is, it's got to be respected. And blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. No. Well, the violin's much harder to play. No. You know what the problem is? The old school.
Yep.
They look at me and they go, yikes, this guy scares me. Where the
Right.
guitar players go, you were a guitar player. When you see a monster guitar player that scares you,
Yep.
it thrills you.
It does. Absolutely.
I don't
Yep.
thrill these people. But again, that generation is really disappearing, luckily.